And welcome to this special edition of Move the
We move the
Chains.
chains.
Move the Chains, as always, a presentation of Doman Building Materials and RBC. As mentioned, it is a special episode. Host Matt Baker here this week, once again, sitting in for Ryan Phillips. RP getting ready to take down the Blue Bombers here this Friday night, but we're more than honored to sit in and talk more about such a special cause and a special event that we've paid tribute to with the BC Lions. Thursday this week, the official holiday, National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. And it is my great pleasure to welcome in Phyllis Webstad, who was a guest at our game along with several other special guests. So we'll get into that certainly over the course of this episode. Phyllis, of course, we'll get into it. Her story is the inspiration for Orange Shirt Day. And former BC Lion JR LaRose. This story, a lot of these issues near and dear to his heart, as well as we had him on a previous episode with Chief David Pratt. Phyllis, JR, how you doing? Good to be with you.
Thanks for having us.
Good to be here.
Let's talk about what transpired there. Would have been last Friday, September 24th. Always a big event when Saskatchewan comes to town, but this one was extra special as we, for those watching on YouTube, JR has his, I have proud to wear mine. Every child matters. Phyllis has her orange shirt as well. 10,000 lucky fans were lucky to get this stylized BC Lions logo done by Corinne Hunt, and we encourage you to head to bclions.com and check out her story. But Phyllis, start with you. Just your impressions of being there for the event and how it went from your view.
I've only ever been to one Lions game, so that was my second one. And just being there was surreal to see all of the orange shirts. Well, obviously BC Lions are orange, but all of the shirts, and I'm hearing a lot of good things from people that watched on TV and on the radio, that it wasn't one or two mentions, it was throughout the entire broadcast, which is amazing, because usually we're stuck with a couple of minutes and mentioned and then forgotten about, but it wasn't like that. I'm hearing I haven't been able to watch any of it yet on TV, but hearing nothing but good things, and being in the VIP lounge, I didn't realize that we'd have food, and I ate beforehand. So, but I guess it was a good thing, because running beside George to go to different like with TSN and different radio and APTN, and I needed to have eaten beforehand, because I didn't have time not until after to see what was all there. It was a pretty good spread, and if I ever do it again, now I know there's some good food to be had there too. So it's always good to know that. And I was very tired at the end of it. I got a good workout running around there with George to different places, and often I ask and I question myself, why me? Like, why is this happening? Why is my story? Why is this happening to me? And on Saturday, when I was reflecting, I thought, well, that's one of the reasons why, because I'm 54. I just turned 54, and trying to keep up with George was like, an elder would not have been able to run around and do all of the media stuff. So I'm happy to do it, and while I can.
Yeah, you hang out with George Chaika, you're certainly going to get your steps in, so you don't have to worry about that. JR, you've long been a great community ambassador, and as mentioned, we've talked to you about these issues before. You were in the suite, you were sort of at the forefront. What was your reaction to the various tributes, and maybe any of the other special guests we hosted that you might have interacted with, the residential school survivors?
It was absolutely amazing. It was such an honor being there at the game as a former player. Like you'd mentioned earlier, my mom was sent to the residential school, and all the horrific things that had happened there, to now see, the BC Lions, a team that, I played 5 years, won a Grey Cup championship, step up, and we talk about truth and reconciliation. Well, that's what this is it's now giving people a platform, like Phyllis, who started the Orange Shirt, to have their stories be told. And I think that's how we truly move forward, is having our stories told so people have an understanding of what Indigenous people have gone through but have overcome. That's the big piece as well. So I was super proud. I put this shirt on for the Orange Shirt Day, and it's, you almost get tears, because it's, this is representing and standing for people like my mom, people like Phyllis, the ones that never made it back. But this is through reconciliation, is now having these stories be told. And I'm just honored that the Lions stepped up and wanted to make this happen. So for me, it was a very, very emotional day, or evening at the game. I thought the national, or when the Indigenous community got to sing at the beginning of the game, super, super powerful. The halftime show was amazing. And then just hearing the story as well, Phyllis' story, I think it was on TSN, but they showed it in the suite that we were at. Absolutely phenomenal. Just a special tribute to as we kick off Orange Shirt Day coming up here in a few days.
And very quickly, I have to credit our broadcast partner, TSN. Early in the week, my media duties, I communicate with their producer, talking about what they need for the broadcast. And they were all in on helping us. They had their entire crew wear these shirts, camera operators. I believe the broadcast crew was wearing them. So that's a credit to everyone at TSN for doing their part in helping us spread the message. Phyllis, we know your story. Not all those watching or listening might know your story. And that's what we're telling people, to continue to educate themselves. Share your story, how this Orange Shirt Day came about.
Okay, in 3 minutes or less.
All the time you need.
I'm third generation residential school survivor. So what that means is Granny was the first generation to attend from 1925 to 1935. All of Granny's 10 children attended, and her eldest grandchild, I'm Granny's second eldest grandchild, so we both attended. So the 3 generations. And my son was also at the last operating residential school in Canada when it closed in 1996. The TRC came to Williams Lake in May of 2013, and one of their final stops on the whole TRC process. As we know, the TRC report was finalized, and they had their final ceremony in June of 2015, so not about 2 years later. When the TRC came to Williams Lake, we wanted the non-Indigenous community to know that they were invited to hear the truths of survivors. We had media events leading up to the 5-day truth telling in May, and that's when I was able to tell my Orange Shirt story for the first time. And what it is I grew up with my grandmother on the Dog Creek Reserve. We are, it's Khatslam, we are Shawetmach or Shuswap, about an hour and a half southwest of Williams Lake, so about 7 hours drive north of Vancouver. I grew up with my grandmother because my mother was experiencing trauma from her 10-year experience and turned to alcohol. And I have her permission to say that. She became an alcoholic and was unable to take care of me. And I didn't know who my father was. And so Granny took me. And when I was 10, my aunt took me after she finished university. But Granny had done what she had done for herself, that had happened for her children, for her eldest grandchild. So when I turned 6 in 1973, Granny took us to town to buy something new to wear. Even though she knew it would be taken, she always wanted us to be presented in the best possible way. And I was born in 67, so I turned 6 in July of 1973. I just turned 54, but in 73 was like the hippie era and the really wild colors, and it was a sparkly orange, like kind of like a Nemo orange shirt that I chose for my first day, and there was like three holes there and a shoelace that laced up that I chose for my first day of school. And when I got to the residential school, the mission as we call it, my shirt was taken away, my clothing was taken away, and I never did wear my shirt again. I don't have a memory of ever getting it back. But my story is not unique. There were 150,000 children taken away from their homes and families across Canada, and they all themselves and their families have a story of their first day, and a lot of them getting their clothing taken away and having DDT, that chemical, put on them, and just having their hair cut and all kinds of things. So very quickly, that's my orange shirt story.
Wow. And JR, I mean, last time we talked to you, I mean, you shared your mother's story. Everyone in the various Indigenous communities, no doubt they have a story or they're connected to a story. And that's really what truth and reconciliation is all about, is it, JR? I mean, we talked about it a bit in the last episode, but September 30th this week, National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. Expand on that maybe, and how people can educate themselves more on a lot of these tragedies who may not know the whole scope of it.
Yeah, I think listening to other people's stories is huge, goes such a long way. You talk about educating, we got a simple thing called Google, and it could be Googling that or hearing other people's stories like Phyllis. There's so many other people that have gone through it. And that's how you can truly have an understanding of what people have gone through and have also are overcoming. I think for myself, the work that I do, speaking with other Indigenous communities throughout Canada and sharing my story and why that's so important is because I've walked a mile in their shoes. We talk about, the effects of the residential school. I refuse to now have that victim mentality. I want to break that cycle. When you look at the things that people coming up, my mother was an addict for years because of all the traumatic things that had happened to her. I'm not using that as an excuse for my mom to turn to drugs and alcohol. She just didn't know who she could talk to or who she could trust, because of all that pain. And for me, when I sat down with my mom, with the adjudicator and had an understanding of everything she had gone through, my mom is a hero to me. People like Phyllis are heroes. There's so many other people that have been able to overcome that. I mean, that's how we heal. That's by being able to overcome. All of us are faced with obstacles, different types of adversities, but it's those success stories are what help get us through. And you talk about reconciliation. Canadians need to learn. And I think that's what this is all being brought to. We look at the social context of Orange Shirt Day. It's bringing now awareness where Canadians have an opportunity to learn what Indigenous people have gone through and have been able to overcome.
And JR, you go into a lot of communities. I mean, we talked about it. Even your time as a player. I mean, you're in Prince Rupert right now, I think. I mean, what's the reaction you get from kids and some of those less fortunate when they see someone of your stature sort of come in?
It's simple, man. My message is a message of hope. I think all of us need hope, and to know that I've had family members that have gone through the residential school. The generational impacts that I had on myself as well, to be able to, overcome that. I had a family that was plagued with addictions. And, I'm that success story. We look at as athletes, I think less than 1% of the athletic population turn pro. I'm one of that. Less than 1%, but I'm also very proud to be Indigenous. And so if I can go into community and let them know that, hey, this is me, you can see this, I'm in the flesh here. You can do the exact same thing by not allowing your situation to become your excuse in life. That's what it's about. So the reaction is always positive. And, I try and leave people with hope and feeling good, knowing that if I can do it, they can do it. I tell people all the time, we don't become a product of our environment. That's an excuse. We become a product of our choices.
Very well said. Phyllis, what's the impact of sport had on your community? I think I heard you talk before about getting some mini footballs, maybe as an example. Expand on some of that.
Mm-hmm. The first couple of years, it was probably 14, 15, the BC Lions provided the mini footballs to our events in Williams Lake and 100 Mile, boxes of them. And we gave them out to the kids at the events. And on the third year, they wanted them again, but we never did get them again. But I kept some. And when I looked at the football and it was orange, I thought, wouldn't it be great if survivors could go to a football game and be honored at a game, like have their own section, have their own way of identifying them and honoring them? And that way we could spread awareness about residential schools and their impacts. And throughout the years we did try, but we never got anywhere. But anyway, with 2021 now, with the children waking up the world, and it was the right time on Friday to have it. I think if it had happened before, it may not have been quite accepted as it was by everyone. And sport, my son is very involved in sport. He's a hockey coach, floor hockey and lacrosse, and he goes into Indigenous communities to teach and to work with the kids as well. So I think if JR and him were to meet, they would hit it off, and there might be a chance of that soon. But yeah, definitely. I had my son in hockey when he was younger to just to keep him out of trouble, and I believe sports keeps them out of trouble and gives them a sense of worth, and that and to be a part of a team, and like you said, with some hope instead of hopelessness, that they can have some hope.
And just to echo what Phyllis said, I think sports gives people an opportunity, gives people a safe place. For myself, as I was a kid that was abused, and some of the things that I was dealing with at home, and so sports was my safe place. But also football allowed me to get out all my built up aggression in a controlled environment. So that gave me something to be passionate about. And I think there's so many of our youth that are gifted athletically, not just athletically, artists, you name it. But as we talk about the sports, that gave me hope, knowing that I could change my situation through sport, and the life lessons I learned from it. Accountability, having to be on time for things, teamwork. It's not just about myself. It's about the other. In the Canadian football, it's about the 12. There's 12 guys on the field. You got to work together. Same with as Phil's telling, our son played hockey. That you got 5 guys in the ice with the goalie. Everyone's got to do their job and really rely on one another. And that's what sports does.
And also, you talk about the impact of sport. It's about bringing communities together. Is that fair to say too, JR?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, without a doubt.
September 30th, we talked about it. I mean, we're again encouraging folks to educate themselves. I've been educating myself. I've learned so much about this, and it's a credit to George Chaika and our sponsors, Fortis BC, the government of BC, BC Hydro, who made this orange shirt game possible. It's a credit to George and everyone involved for making this such a special event. But Phyllis, how confident are you that once we get through the first official holiday, the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, how confident are you that people will become more educated on this serious story as years go by?
Yeah, Orange Shirt Day started in 2013. So in 2 years, it'll be the 10th year. And so this is the 8th year. And more people are being aware. And with the Tecum Loops 215, the children, it's just grown by leaps and bounds with the awareness and people willing to take the time to educate themselves and to understand. And there's the TRC final report. There's sections in the whole report. They spent a lot of time thinking about that report and putting it together, and the 94 calls to action. You're talking about how people can educate themselves, and the Murdered and Missing Indigenous Women report. There's Robert Joseph's son. Oh, he has the book on the Indian Act. I just purchased it the other day to educate myself more on the Indian Act. And yeah, so we can all learn, like myself included, and to learn more. I'm learning my history a lot as well, with talking to my aunts and my mom, and just learning different stories within our family.
Well said. And then JR, lastly with you, I know you mentioned it, you were abused. I mean, how important is it to share, for people to share those stories?
For me, it's why I do it. It's healing, you know, but it's also letting people know that they're not alone. I think oftentimes people, survivors of abuse, whether it be, you know, sexual abuse, domestic abuse, whatever it is, I think oftentimes they feel alone. And knowing that they're not alone. And first off, that the stuff that happened to them wasn't their fault, is important to get that messaging out. And that's why I'm so passionate about doing that type of work. Sharing my mom's story, my sister's story, my story. It's to, have other people know that they're not alone, and that there is light at the end of the tunnel. And so that's why I do that work.
What should people think about on September 30th? Phyllis?
September 30th, Orange Shirt Day, the first National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, was created to have conversation about all aspects of residential school. And it was created as a day to honor survivors and their families, and to remember those that never made it. I used to say made it home, but in addition to the missing children and unmarked burials, in this day, 2021, survivors and their families continue to leave this earth because of the experiences and the effects of all of the residential schools. So it's a day to talk, share a meal, attend an event, go for a walk. But most important is to have conversation and to honor survivors and remember those that didn't come home.
JR, anything to add to that? Was very well said, Phyllis.
Yeah, no, I think Phyllis really hit the nail on the head. It's for me, I know personally, I'll be thinking of the ones that never made it home, and then other family members that have been affected by it. It'll definitely be an emotional day, but with emotion, I think comes healing as well as we continue to talk about this.
Well said, and commend you both for sharing your stories and for playing key roles in the football club's special night. This has been Move the Chains presentation of Doman Building Materials and RBC. Matt Baker with Phyllis Webstad, who's, again, you've just heard it, her story, the inspiration for Orange Shirt Day, 8th year, started in 2013. And it's going to be getting even more and more recognition as the years go by. JR LaRose, always a great ambassador for all things community related. And I thank you both for joining us this week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We move the change. You hear what I'm saying? Real players can relate, cause they the ones that was playing. Be great, just wait. We be really in the field. Now we really on the mic, speaking truly how we feel. For real, screaming hut one, hut two. Tell me what you gon' do. Coming off that edge, only way to stop is hold you. Never let the gatekeepers control you. Once you lose your voice, now they definitely know they own you. But not I. Rob Phillips coming so fly. Pick 6 on the way when that ball's in the sky. They say time is money, and I wonder why. Now I know that's a goddamn lie. Let's go. Come and get game from the chains. Everybody love it when you move the chains. Haters hate to see me really do my thing. Move the chains, move the chains. Let's go. Move the chains. The number one podcast. Move the chains. Do my thing. We getting this dough, you know how it go. Grab a seat and tune in, then tell me what you know. Back when TIP said get it on the flow, RP was on BC putting on a show. For show, screaming touchdown, touchdown. Everything you want now. Fans be the chain gang, game every month now. Don't even try to front now. These new dudes be something like my son now. I'm better than ever. The game that we speak gotta be clever. Ball hard no matter the weather. I cheese for the picks while I'm counting this cheddar. On my mama, boy, I never would let her. But so you know I gotta get up and run just to get game from the chains. Everybody love it when you move the chains. Haters hate to see me really do my thing. Move the chains, move the chains. Let's go. Move the chains. The number one podcast. Move the chains, do my thing. Come and get game from the chains. Everybody love it when you move the chains. Haters hate to see me really do my thing. Move the chains, move the chains. Let's go. Move the chains. The number one podcast. Move the chains, do my thing.